Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So if you have watched my previous videos, I have been covering World War II and its battles extensively. So right now we are at the phase of the German invasion into Russia, which is the previous video. Today we will be covering the World War in the Asian section. So I hope you enjoyed this video and please sit back and relax and enjoy. As the war in Europe was quickly intensifying throughout 1940 to 1941, the wars in Asia also began to strengthen. Japan, the only major Axis power in the continent, began to fight several other Asian powers including China, French Indochina, and several other colonies of European powers fighting their own wars in Europe. Throughout 1939 to 1940, the war between Japan and China had been effectively a stalemate, meaning neither side was gaining any advantage despite extensive casualties, several thousand to dozens of thousands on both sides. This caused both sides to begin fiercely retaliating against one another. In August of 1940, Communist China launched a massive offensive in central China, leading to a Chinese victory in January of 1941, cutting off major transportation corridors to Japan and severe setbacks to the Japanese Empire. Absolutely not good for Japan at this point. In retaliation, the Japanese issued the Three Alls policy, a very violent policy which stood for kill all, loot all, and burn all. The Japanese committed mass atrocities and murder in this campaign from 1941 to 1942, and several smaller events in this campaign all the way until the end of the war in 1945, killing at least 2 to 3 million Chinese civilians, burning entire villages while starving numerous others, and reducing the Chinese population in the communist sector from around 44 to 25 million people due to death, starvation, slavery, and immigration, which is opposite of immigration. Japan launched an invasion on French Indochina, which was part of France at the time. Obviously, France had been struggling during World War II, and by this point, I am quite sure that France was already taken by Nazi Germany, and French Indochina was basically its own colony for a bit. So Japan took that over in 1940 September to blockade China by the region of Tonkin, which is where North Vietnam is and where I was from. During all of these events, the Chinese Civil War that had started in 1927 between the Kuomintang, led by Chiang Kai-shek, and the Communist Party of China, which would be led by Mao Zedong, was still taking place. This had to halt as both sides joined forces against the Japanese invasion. Unfortunately, in an event in January 1941, both sides clashed and ended this cooperation, unfortunately. So, and then, during the spring of 1941, Japanese forces managed to negotiate oil supplies, which was obviously much needed during the war, from the Dutch East Indies, modern day Indonesia, which was under Dutch control at the time. Remember that Dutch or the Netherlands had been conquered by the Germans as well, around a few months before France was taken. So basically, the Dutch East Indies managed to give Japan some of their oil supplies. Unfortunately for Japan, they would not be able to wrestle any more resources from the area as further negotiations failed. In July of the same year, Japan threatened other European colonies in Asia, causing the UK and US, along with their other allies, to sanction Japan and freeze all Japanese assets. If you don't know what freezing assets mean, it means basically if the Japanese government had any property or bank accounts or money that was in the UK or the US, they would not be able to access it because it is frozen. Frozen means you can't access it, it's locked, and yeah, so that's not good for Japan, obviously. Japan, which obviously was frustrated by the sanctions and the lack of progress in the invasions of the Asian continent, began to plan to directly enter the war by attacking Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. Yes, yes, they technically were already in the war, but they technically weren't in the war still because, well, they were basically doing their own things in Asia and not meddling with other stuff in Europe. So basically, they began to plan by attacking Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. The plan was approved, it was practiced, and the emperor, which was Hirohito, obviously aided the campaign. And then through November, Japan planned this attack along with other attacks of US and British colonies in the Pacific Ocean. These plans were set into motion as on the 7th to the 8th of December. Time zones cause time difference and date difference, obviously. In Hawaii, it was not a new day yet, it was on the 7th, and on the other islands in the Pacific, including Guam, Wake Island, blah blah blah, they were already in a new day, so they would have been on the 8th. Japan launched attacks on the US and UK colonies in Hawaii, which was Pearl Harbor, the Philippines of the US, Guam of the US, Wake Island of the US, Hong Kong of UK, Thailand, and Malaya. This was a pivotal point in World War II as the US was now forced to join the war. So, something that many people don't know is that initially, the US only declared war on Japan because earlier in the war, the Congress would force the president to not meddle in the war in Europe, despite obviously it being very important, and Japan attacking the US means the US could only declare war on Japan. Fortunately for the Allies, or maybe not so fortunately at the time, Germany and Italy declared war on the US for them, even though the US couldn't declare war on them. So basically, this helped the US join the war fully without breaking, any laws of that time. So yeah, so after December 7th of 1941, the US formally joined World War II, and of course they did do a lot, and I will continue to cover that in the next videos. Now I will just see this thing, Voyager, and Sedna. Let me see Sedna. I would like to make it extremely large. Oh, oh, and it's gone. Okay, never mind. Let's make Eris then. Mass, more mass. I would like more mass, more radius, more mass, more mass, more radius. Oh, and it's a black hole. Okay, black hole Eris is now swallowing all of the solar system, and it will finally swallow the Voyager 1 spacecraft very soon. Goodbye. Okay everyone, that is it for this video today. If you would like to see my other content and continue for me to make videos, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing this video so that my channel will continue to grow, and I cannot do this without your help. So thank you for watching and goodbye.